Good morning. Let me continue with something which is a continuation of what I had spoken in the last two lectures, plus something by itself which is anybody can start working towards making concepts for your ideas in your mind. Over the years we have gone into a nice level of abstraction. When you want to say something, you can talk in terms of known physical quantities. For example, if you talk about a distance, saying it is so many miles, you can get a estimate of how long it will take, how much effort it will take and so on when you talk about a mile. And then probably the highest abstraction level is made by mathematicians, where they do not use known physical quantities anymore. Instead, they represent physical quantities by numbers. So, things like A, B, C and so on, saying if you add A and B, it will happen to something. And then next level is, we are all familiar with the well known thing like the Pythagoras theorem, where we can add areas and then we can come into net result of it and so on. It seems to make a lot of sense in several human efforts directly. If you had to cut out a cloth for a shirt like this, by taking various measurements and laying them out on a flat sheet, you can always go and ask for a cloth which is probably a meter wide and length maybe say 1.5 meters, and then using that the concepts of 1 by 1.5 meters, it is possible for us to lay out a cloth, cut it and then make a garment out of it. But you will notice, if you just directly talk about an area saying I want a 1.5 square meter cloth, it can be anything, because the second level you need to specify what are the two sides of such a thing which you want. However, in real life we are very visual people, and our own world is dependent on the various inputs which you get from the sensory input. One of them is visual input, saying the moment you look at it, you can understand things. This is where even things like optical illusions play a little on the things which we make a formation. Next level is probably touch, a tactile feedback. If you go and touch it, you have a slightly better idea of what it is. Something related to all this is probably sounds which things make. If somebody were to ask you, is this made of metal or is it made of ceramic? You take a cup and probably you click the cup, take the cup and you make a click. Then you can make out, yes, this is probably neither metal nor ceramic, meaning it is not a bone china. Probably it is made from a molded plastic. Then after that, when you tilt it and see, you see various lines and all that. From there you make an idea, oh, it is probably made from some different type of plastic, different type of thing, and various types of materials. Now I come back to one of the very important things, which is the importance of sketching. Something which is very related to our human understanding of the world is how we sketch things and how we make things which keep going forward. So, I would like to point out that I would like to acknowledge the source from which I have taken this. It is from goshen.edu and then concepts. If it is possible, if it is still being maintained there, you can take a look at it. If not, the things that are presented here are relatively common, so you can make this thing out of it. So, this Mike Rod talks about the simple way of converting any of your ideas into expressing them on paper is the first step of converting them into a product. So, he says, we have the sketch kit here, the standard complement of tools to draw a sketch. And he says, you see, I like to take to draw a sketch. You see, we get back to one of the important academic activities, drinking coffee, and that is how this cafe comes about. Other than just about wasting time in the coffee thing, it means that you do not take a break. All the time you are busy sketching, and then he calls it a cafe bag. And then here you have a sketchbook, and then you have a pocket sketchbook, and then you have various sketching things, and you have templates, and then there is a strap to carry it. Most important is we have a gel pen here with a refill, and then a sketch pencil here. Drawing instruments are key components. I choose the Pilot G2 0.7 and then also with a Faber-Castell thick soft leads. So, if you do not have it, do not worry about it, the brand is not important. The importance is that you need a pen which is not very sharp, but then it does give distinct lines with a clean edge. That is where that 0.7 either ink or pencil or something comes. The other is a pencil which typically we use 2B and 3B pencils in sketching. Thing is, if you press a little harder, you can get it darker, and then you can probably shade corners of it, and then you can even chisel point it so that you can get better things. The next slide talks about why sketches are important. One is they are important communication tools. This is how you can explain somebody how things are. Okay, I will put the pointer here and take it out. Most important is it will speed up visual speak problem, many options very rapidly. Drafting prior to making a list of sketch alternatives can result in poorly conceived product. No? You remember, what he is talking about is drafting. Drafting means a semi-formal engineering drawing, because engineering drawings are already abstracted. You have a 3-view drawing saying you have a plan, you have a elevation, and you have a side view, and then you have the what do you call American system of a 3-view drawing, and then you also have the European projections, and then you have an isometric view, then you have pictorial view. All this comes into drafting, because in general drafting is to scale. But when you were to explain to a friend of yours how to look at a feature on the street, what will you do? One of the first levels is probably show them a map, saying we have a map here. Then map is again a little bit of an abstraction, because it takes a bird's eye view of the what do you call as the features that are visible outside. But you travel along a road, you travel along a path looking forward, and you are looking for visual cues where to take the next decision. So, next question you will explain to him, saying at this point you will find this big some building, or you will find a billboard, or you will find a physical feature, saying at that point you need to now take the next decision, saying you take a turn left, or from there count 3 turns and take the turn right, and so on. And if you are lucky and if there are boards, you will reach that place. In due course, you will see that we understand these things very well, and then there is never any confusion. This is where the sketches are very, very important as communication tools. You need to communicate. While a very routine thing like reaching your place or contacting you is easy, imagine something which is in your mind, it has to now get manufactured. You see here a little more this thing about what are all the various tools. I will not spend too much time on this. Then you have this and so on, like that, so many of them. Now we come back to very, very important thing of sketching. Will you believe these are not generated by a computer, these are all done by hand. Somebody has spent a lot of time, they have started with looking at it, you know very well it is probably a circular what do you call device, it is not a it is not a oblong, or as I told you in the previous class, no, it is not an oblate spheroid, or it is not a I mean other things like that. So, if you look here, one of the first things you will notice is, if it were to be an engineering drawing, we will end up with a 3-view drawing. So, something here will explain saying there is something here like this, and then there is something here, and then you see it is not a very explanatory thing, and then this we call it a front view, I do not know, or elevation. And then we write another view here saying we have a part of it here and there is something else here like this. I have a feeling this is more useful in trying to decide who is qualified to be a draftsman. You really can't make out anything out of this engineering representation of it, but what it does do is we can directly give dimensions here. We can give a dimension which is shared by these two, we can give a dimension which is shared by this, and we can also highlight features saying this is transparent and this is so on and so on, and various types of thing here. It is probably some alarm device which I cannot say. Now I will go on to the next slide. As we go on, most important here seems to be agile development and lots of iterations. Try to sketch on paper a lot. Very important is avoid Photoshop. Shocking, isn't it? But if you see carefully, Photoshop is for playing around on photos, not meant for your sketching. So it is with so many other things. Luckily, right now I am working on a graphic a computer. It is easy for me to sketch and all that. It is not quite the same as taking a paper and taking wherever you want and sketching it. So everywhere they talk about an advocate of using pen or pencil and paper sketches to think visually. It comes naturally, you just need to practice it, and then if you were to sit in a class like I did, I had a lot of education. What I picked up or what I taught, some of it is useful, some of it became useful much later on. But when we lose contact with the lecturer, what do? We sit and do oodles of doodles. Keep on practicing. One of the easiest thing to practice is our signature. Second thing is how to sketch the features which you see around. In the end, there is no rigidity and limitation of the computer software. Give it a try. Go forth, sketch real. And what I was talking to a little while about, it is relaxing. This is what we have been doing in schools, colleges, sometimes in now meetings everywhere. You see here, a full-fledged drafted drawing implies a more advanced state of planning, okay. Because already things like actual sizes, relative positions have all been frozen. You have seen this already. Clients are afraid to suggest because it appears that they have already invested too much in the plan. So, we all know about it in the case of let us say you get ready for a photo shoot. So, you know who stands where and all that. No, supposing you give them a formal plan saying like you are in an elementary school, all of you stand at an arm's length and you maintain this and all that, it becomes a chore, something you need to avoid. However, a sketch on the contrary implies the early state of planning and designing which invites input and participation on the part of a client. And the word client here, I will substitute it with other team members. tough. But yes, this is the only way you can communicate with somebody. If you just randomly reel off things related to weight and materials and fabrication process, we have a little problem. But when we are working together, resulting product is likely to be appreciated and understood better if you communicate in the terms of sketches. This I think earlier I have shown to you. This is taken from a Siemens phone. See how many variants have been worked out on a very basic theme. Very basic theme is, here we have a display, then we have set of keys. How do you now make the keys? And then in the case of the old phones, we always had this antenna which has to be stuck out. Now do we just stick to a simple cube type of device, or you make it something a little more like this, or you make the important thing feature a little bigger? These are concepts. Obviously, there is a population stereotype, and most people, they are expected to hold the phone on the left and then they peck at the thing from the using the right finger. It is also left also is possible. Now luckily with the new things you can even reconfigure the things. Sketch lines are by definition drawn without mechanical aid, but relative to each other are to scale, and by definition always in perspective. Most important is that this perspective seems to help us a lot. Seen this beautiful, how to tell, a study on a table or still life picture. As kids would have loved to write a picture of a house or flowers or anything. We have all been taught there is obviously very simple way of writing something. What we do? We go here and then we try to draw essentially what is called a gabled house. What a gabled house does is, okay, next when I come back to it I will tell you. There is a very simple way of it, but in real life if you see carefully here, even geometric solids like this, they seem to have beautiful things here. You see, there is a beautiful edge here. You have seen this, there is a beautiful edge here, though it is a simple rectangular slide. We have an edge here which shows that we can identify it, and there are various grades of shades which are there, including there is something which is catching the highlight here, and then there is something which is catching the shadow here. Now sometimes we have you would have seen in various art magazines and all, there are outside what do you call landscapes and all which are done on the pavement, meaning the roads. It looks like there is a big hole and people are little cautious about it. The only thing there is the difference between 2D and 3D is 2D is flat. From one point you will be able to appreciate the thing. So if you see any markings on a big court, typically in India we all play cricket, and then various other things, you see the promoters' names being written. From the main camera it appears in proportion. The promoter's name appears in promotion, but actually if you go very close to the thing you cannot even read it, because there is what is called a foreshortening because of the angle. Keeping these things in view, a lot of times it is very easy for us to try to sketch things and make them look presentable. Left handed, see things are given here saying right handed move from left to right, left handed move from right to left, rotate paper to facilitate natural ease of drawing. Next time you watch an artist, he does not, like we expect, he does not go about writing something directly on the top or anything. Instead he uses a pen like this or makes things, and then nicely, very conveniently, he is able to draw things without any problem. Make lines parallel to edge by using a finger sliding on edge of this thing to control it. I will just show you this, have a look at it. See here, if you want to draw something, you just need to hold it, and then if you draw like this, very easy for you to continue with your these things. I will draw it here so that it is easier for me. This people have been doing for a very long time, and you too would have had, as if you are somebody who is curious and is taking these classes, I am very sure that you people are very, you like all these things a lot. Coming to the next slide, slowly we are getting into a little more details about drawing. You have seen here. So, we have a perspective and what is called line weight, depending on the outline. Outline generally, if you draw it a little thicker, the object will come out of the page, so that it looks easier. And then parts can be removed, and by addition and subtraction of the solids, you should be able to make various features. And you see here, very important thing here at the bottom, there is a grid line which is painted over that. It looks as if it is a brick or a sponge, and there is a depression that is made in it, but in reality it is a flat surface. But the visual cues presented here make sure that it looks as if there is a depression. Now, if you come to more and more advanced features, you have the picture here of a motorbike front. So, we have a seat here, and then we have the tank, and then we have the various type of controls there. So, it is possible for us to practice all these things. Circles using a fingernail as a compass, very lightly drawn preliminary target points to create shapes, point to point method for determining proper length, apparent size relationship observation by using full arm length pencil marking. So, you see here, if you see artists, often they hold their thing like this here, no? They measure, saying, you see, this Eiffel Tower is about so long, or hey, this is short, and then using those things, they try to make a proper preliminary sketch to make things quite easy. Next slide will probably show you what is drawn inside a book. See, inside the book, this person has kept on making circles, and then after that there are various things to make these things look nice. So, it is a matter of practice. You have seen here, there is a beautiful something, no? There is a rectangular vertical object, around it circles have been drawn, and then they just keep on practicing this. It makes it look very easy. In perspective sketches, receding horizontal lines converge at vanishing points at eye level. Vertical lines remain vertical unless you are a very high or low viewpoint. So, these next pictures, you remember I was talking to you about how you have been asked as a child to make a house. What did you do? You started with a gabled roof. So, we have a gabled roof there, though very rarely we have slopes, all the time we have flats instead, and in the front we probably have already a entrance to it. To make it 3-dimensional, obviously the easiest way would be to add you see, already it looks a little like a 3-dimensional object. So, children have been taught on simple methods how to make these things. Sometimes they are okay, sometimes they are not okay. One of the easiest way they tell them is saying, you start drawing any shape in the front and then try to imitate the same shape a little at the back, and now join the lines, and then you already have very beautiful 3D object which appears okay. But you will notice one of the first thing you will notice is vertical lines have to be vertical, and there is always a vanishing point which makes sure that your objects are in proportion. You see here we have a, I do not know, I think it is a faucet, people call it a faucet or I think a tap. So, you see people have been, these are basically, you can all be reduced to set of geometrical parts, and then something added to that is that sketching, and related to the sketching is the line weight and then little bit of shading. The moment you keep adding this line weight and shading, things look more and more useful here. You see here, what started on top as a very simple goggles, suddenly as goes down it looks more and more natural, more and more real. I will go back. However, in isometric sketches, receding lines are parallel, not converging to a vanishing point, are always drawn to scale. It looks a little irritating, but useful is that it's somebody can take a compass. A compass is nothing but you have two sharp points and then you have a scale. So, you take something from here and put it on the scale and automatically you know what it is. A height can be scaled, width can be scaled, same it is, a length can be scaled. By definition, isometric is all the three axes are equally represented in the object, foreshortened by there is some relation 0.87 and so on like that. The problem is, while it makes a lot of sense for the person who is doing the drafting, that is making an engineering workshop sketch, not very useful to visualize products with it. All vertical remains vertical in both isometric and perspective unless a view angle are selected. Now here if you see very carefully, see lot of stuff has been made here. Sketching surfaces will be ultra high resolution and so on, no. You can keep on trying to make things as you like. Shading adds realism and three dimensionality. Shading is on the object and shadows are cast on the ground. Highlights indicate the direction of the light source. Three important things is, if you remember I showed you that sphere, there is something which is catching the highlight and reflecting it back to you. The moment it appears like a spot, you know probably the surface is a spherical surface. It becomes a line, it is either actually a line or a joint of two edges. Anytime you have a joint of two edges, it will catch the highlight and then it will make you, even if you take a very, what do you call, peculiarly objects like this. In reality, though it looks dark, you have here these highlights which is what, which will give you an appearance of what the product is, which is very critical. Now coming back to my slide presentation, I have shown you this what do you call goggles again. We are all impressed by this. You see these beautiful cars. Sometimes they do them so well, we have a doubt whether it is a real car or it is actually a mock-up. It looks good. How else can you convey to your team staff, team members that your vehicle looks like this? Now I will show you some very interesting object. You have seen this, no? It is one of those old espresso coffee things. It plays around a little on various things which we would like to have. The starting point is at the bottom. You have seen this. This is a standard percolator and nothing different about it. No, it is a standard percolator. And the standard percolator, you keep it on a stove top. I think some parts of the world it is called a cooker. So it can be conductive or it can be gas what we have and so on. And then the top portion of it looks a little like the water fountain or somewhere you can collect water.